Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and in the process of creating this card, the Simon Says Stamp February 2017 card kit sold out. However, all these items are available individually, so I will be linking to those in the description box below my video, as well as on my blog. So I'm starting off with some Strathmore Ready Cut watercolor paper, and I had treated it with my anti-static powder tool. And then I'm stamping the to-go cup from the new Coffee and Tea stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. And every time I stamp it, I'm coating the image with my detail white embossing powder because I literally cannot see where I'm stamping when I stamp on this watercolor paper. So I'm just coating everything with the embossing powder, not heating anything up yet. So I'm also trying to be careful not to brush anything off with my fingers because I'm doing this entire piece. And once I got all of the to-go cups stamped across my background, I stamped one of the little happy faces from this set onto all of the cups, as well as there's a little outline heart stamp. So I stamped that, coated everything with my detail white embossing powder, and then I heat set it. So a person, if they wanted to, you could stamp the to-go cups, heat set it, go on to the next, like go on to the faces, heat set it, etc. Whatever works best for you. I super sped this up, obviously. It actually took a decent amount of time to do this whole background with this, but it was so cute and so fun. I'm basically just creating my own pattern paper. So I melted everything with my heat tool, and then once it was done, I'm going to go in with my clean color real brush markers and watercolor all of these. And with them being heat embossed, it just makes the watercoloring go so much easier. I've said it in so many videos. I love heat embossing images and then coloring them or watercoloring them in. It's just so much simpler because it contains like the color and the water, so then you can go a lot faster. So I'm only using 5 colors all together to do this entire background. And I did everything at once. So I used light gray first, and I colored in all the lids, just scribbled on some marker, pulled it out with my water brush, and then went on to each section. And then once that part was done, I'm going to go on to the to-go cups themselves, and I'm using the beige marker for that. And I will have the colors listed in the supplies as well as on my blog. So I just scribble on a bit of the color, and then I'm just using the little Zig H2O. This is like the detail water brush. Really simple, really easy, nothing too fancy. So after I did the cups, I'm doing the little wraps, and for that I'm using peach pink. This one I found I had to move a little bit faster to get the color to blend, but generally pinks and reds can be difficult to begin with. But once I got a decent amount of speed going, and also just making sure I had the right amount of water coming out of my brush, I always keep a little piece of paper towel off to the side that I'll wipe my brush off if it gets too wet or to clean off color, etc. So once I was done the mugs, I'm going to do the background, and the background is really, really simple. I just scribbled the light blue, which is, light blue, in different areas and pulled it out with a water brush till it faded to white. I didn't want the background to be solid blue, but I just wanted that tiny little bit of definition. It just makes the embossing pop that little bit more. Plus I wanted to pull in the blue color because there's some blue in the pattern paper from the kit and whatnot. And I just thought I just love that color combo, like aqua, pink, brown. Love. So I just went around, and this whole piece, I never taped it down or anything because I wasn't adding large amounts of water. I was doing small sections at a time using just the water brush, so there was no need really to tape this down. The only reason it ended up a little bit warped in the end is there was different times I used my heat tool a little bit just to speed along the drying process, but other than that it was fine. So I finished off the coloring with just the pink marker for the hearts and whatnot. And then after everything was dry, I spritzed it with my distress sprayer, let it sit for roughly a minute, and it reacts with water. Then I used my paper towel to pick up that color, so I ended up with this fun, splattery, mottled look on top of all of that watercolor. And then I dried that with my heat tool, and then to even add to it, I grabbed my Copic Opaque White, and my jar, you can see, is starting to dry out a bit because I use this so much. However, I'm always thinning it out with water anyway, so I just kind of try and scrape up as much as I can with my brush. Then I watered it down on an acrylic block and splattered it onto my background. And I didn't use my color cubby this time. I thought, I was like, let's see how well I can control this, and obviously not well enough. So I had white splatter all over my craft mat and my desk, but I just used a baby wipe to quickly wipe that up before it could dry. So clean up my mess, let that background dry, and then I die cut it with the largest stitched rectangle die from Simon Says, and then I die cut some of the pattern paper with the largest of the basic rectangles dies. And then I grabbed the new Miss You die that I have had from their new Hey Love release that I love. I just love this. So I die cut that 3 times from Simon Says 120 pound smooth white cardstock. And I left one of them in the scrap of paper so I could sponge it with some Distress ink. And I started out with some brushed corduroy here. I'm just sponging it onto these letters. I wanted it, I was kind of thinking like, you know, coffee latte look. So I wanted the U to be a little bit darker and then the miss to fade up words to white a little bit. So once I was done my sponging, I started stacking all these together. So all 3 die cuts together with my multi-medium matte adhesive. I just apply it to the largest areas of the die cut and just avoid the really, really skinny areas because I don't see any need to apply adhesive all over. This adhesive holds so amazingly well. It is my go-to for stuff like this. So I did 3 layers. I had the 2 layers of just white, and then the 3rd layer is the piece that I'd sponged. So once I got everything adhered together and I laid it out on my card, I found it was just slightly too light. I wanted it to stand out just a little bit more. So I grabbed a darker shade of brown ink. So I'm using Vintage Photo Distress ink here and painstakingly sponged onto these letters just to darken it a little bit. It was a little easier though also to sponge these because there's already so much ink on them. So I just darkened it up with that Vintage Photo ink to deepen it a bit. And then I grabbed a piece of press and seal cling wrap here. I had mentioned this in a previous video after I, fiddled around and made my life so much more difficult. And I'll have that linked at the end of this video. But this is an easier way to line up your dies and adhere them where you want them. So I just press those dies back into the scrap piece paper, and then I'm pressing that press and seal right back on top of those dies so that it is picking up those dies from the scrap paper. And then this way they are completely lined up. That is the beauty of press and seal. It's got this, cool cling technology. Love it. Keep this box right in my craft room. I don't even use it in my kitchen. I just use it in my craft room. So once I did that and peeled away the scrap paper, I flipped this over and now I can apply my multimedia matte adhesive to the back of these die cuts. And then I can flip over the press and seal again and use that. I can look right through it and see exactly where I want to line up these dies, get them into place, press them down, and then just gently peel up that press and seal just like so. Super simple. I wish I do things like this and then I ask myself, why haven't I been doing this more regularly for the last couple years? I don't even know. Anyway, I set an acrylic block on top of that to let it dry fully. And then I grab these little gold glittery hearts and some pink little embellishments. These are from the Crate Paper Cute Girl pack that had also come in the kit. Again, it's available separately. So I sprinkled a few of those onto the card front, and then I'm adhering this to the pattern paper with some foam tape so it's nice and popped up. And then my card base itself is more Simon Says 120 pound cardstock that I had cut in half. So it's 4 1/4 by 11 inches. So I'm going to score it at 5 1/2 with my Teflon bone folder and then press down that crease really well. So it's going to be a top folding A2 sized card. So 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And the largest die of the Simon Says Basic Rectangles set is also A2. I can't speak today. So this will completely cover the card front. So I just applied some adhesive to the back of that and then lined that up onto my card base. So now my card front is done. Then for the inside of the card, I'd actually stamped and embossed and watercolored another one of these little to-go mugs while the other piece was drying. So I trimmed that out with my scissors, and then I'm just stamping this adorable sentiment from that same coffee and tea stamp set. So I just inked it up with those same brown distress inks. I started with the brush corduroy, and then I darkened it with the Vintage Photo because I wanted to make sure this stamped perfectly. So I stamped that on the inside of the card, and then I'm going to adhere that little watercolored to-go mug here, to-go cup. And I just grabbed my multimedia mat for that because it was sitting there open and handy. And then finally, as the last little bit on the inside, there's this little solid heart stamp in the set. So I grabbed that. And rather than grabbing an ink, I just used that same pink clean color real brush marker, just quickly scribbled that on, stamped it on the inside, and that finished off my card. So as always, there'll be a link below my video to my blog post with links to all the supplies used. Check that out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, thumbs upping, and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate the support, and I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!